Welcome everyone. It is Nero here at Dappcentre, the channel where you can find the best crypto projects and the best dApps where you can earn a passive income and learn about all the other things you can do with your precious little cryptocurrencies. Be sure to subscribe and give us a thumbs up. Now let's get to it, shall we? All right, guys. I am here doing a live AMA with James Duchenne. He is the CEO and co-founder of Loot NFTs. How you doing, James? Thanks for joining us today. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself, James, and tell us a little bit about your background and history. We're really excited to hear about your project.
Hey, thanks, Nero, for having me, and hi, everyone. My name is James Duchenne. As I said, I'm the co-founder and CEO of Loot NFT. I'm also the CEO of Duchamp XDM, which is my family investment company. I have a background in engineering, law, and finance, and have advised numerous projects, companies, and governments in the field of blockchain since 2014. I'm also the former managing partner of blockchain venture building firm Sutton Stone, and I was formerly the representative of the Mauritian government here in the United States for venture capital and blockchain. I currently advise also Shisha Finance in the UAE, the DeFi space, and I'm an advisor to the Blockchain Climate Institute. Also sits on a board of companies, a board of number of companies. My background really linking to this space, Nero, is I first learned of Bitcoin in 2012. And didn't really dive into it until 2013. But what really struck me about this space was the non-confiscable nature of cryptocurrencies, right? That was the first thing that popped into my head. And then from there, it was, oh, crap, we can disassociate humanhood or personhood from the ownership of value and transacting of value with smart contracts later on. And these things really fascinated me, and in 2014, many people don't know this, but I was a volunteer at the first Texas Bitcoin conference with the guys there, and I met Vitalik for the first time, pre-Ethereum at that, and it sort of changed the way that I evolved in this space and my career, ever since. So to me, blockchain and Bitcoin, more importantly, follows the aspects of decentralization, and that really, as I said, it changed my career. So from a my co-founder's perspective, that was my background. My co-founders, Lance Baker is one of the top 5, founded one of the top 5 staking pool in the Cardano ecosystem today. So they grew with the Cardano ecosystem from very earlier on. Suyash Sumaru, he's our CTO and built his own Ethereum-based permission blockchain back in 2018. So, the aspects of the technology, he's got that covered. And we also work, since we're in the NFT space, we also work with Shubham Hanuman. Is probably one of the most promising artists in the Southeastern African region, right now. So that's basically a brief overview. Hopefully that covers a number of the different aspects that you wanted me to get into.
Absolutely. 2012, you've been in this space for quite some time.
Yes. Yeah, I've seen a lot of things, right? Like I gave my first blockchain lecture at the University of Houston in 2014. It can still be found on YouTube. And at the time, somebody asked me, where do you think Bitcoin is going to be in because it's always 5 years. Where do you think it's going to be in 5 years? And I'm like, dude, we don't even know what Bitcoin is doing right now. But, my prediction is it's going to be, in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. In a few years' time. And, so for me, it's always been there. And the audience at the time in 2014 was like, oh, yeah, whatever. Right? Because in 2014, it was just like, getting started, really.
Right.
So, yeah, we've seen a lot of up and down. We've went through the 2017, super run up, like Sutton Stone started doing a lot of good things at the time, and then 2018 everyone kind of shut up and moved away as the ecosystem basically collapsed.
Yes. It kind of worries me that we might be running into another one of those here in the near future, just based off the trends. But
I think it's a little it's a little different, right? Right now it feels different. I've been through the 2013 2014 when MT Gox basically, and Mark Karpelès basically not rug pull, there was no rug pull at the time, but kind of disappeared. Yeah. And then all the other ups and downs, really. And this time it feels different, and I think it feels different because you have so much more involvement, and the products are probably more refined. You still have a large swath of product. I mean, you know it, your viewers know it, right? Like where it's, it's, okay, let's invest now, and then 2 days later, something happens and, the world blows up. It's still that, however, it feels different. And the other thing as well, I think that's changed, is we now have data that shows the non-correlation of NFTs and metaverses to a crypto bear market. And I think that's probably something that we'll have to see, but we don't know, right?
Right. Well, speaking of NFTs and metaverses, let's go ahead and get right into this project. So you guys got a project called Loot NFT. We all know that Loot NFT is a massive project with complex and diverse ecosystem. So can you explain to me how this ecosystem works and which features users can expect to find?
Okay, very, very good question, actually. Yes, we are a sprawling ecosystem. At the base, so I'll start at the top. At the top is Loot NFT, or what we call Lootverse, right? Is a decentralized fantasy parallel world that you can access virtually or in person. So from that's a 10,000 foot view. What we've had to do was to create the issuance of the native token within the world, right? Obviously, because people need to transact with value within this environment, and then the utility for it. Most people that you see today, they would have a white paper, and they issue the cryptocurrency, or they issue their currency or native token, and in between, there's a promise that we will get to the vision, right? And what happens in between is a lot of things on the secondary markets, ups and downs, and speculation as to whether the team can actually fulfill the promised land. Right, and that happens mostly in all projects. We're different in the fact that we already have a working product. We didn't seek any capital investments. We're not seeking any either. We were profitable as a business after 4 days. There are no team token allocation, 0. All tokens gets issued to our members. And we have plots in our metaverse that basically must be purchased. We own some plots ourselves, but if we give it to somebody else, like say out of our location, we have to pay for it the same way as everyone else pays. So there is, when you look at this project as well, is 100% of the revenues that come into the ecosystem is split to all virtual plot owners, 100%. So many people look at us and say, well, how are you guys making money, and how does this, why does it, you're not capital raising, you're not doing any of these things. I've been in the Bitcoin, blockchain, cryptocurrency, NFT ecosystem for so long. I've advised companies in the space that basically, wanted to try blockchain technology, etc. And it's always been R&D, like the real use cases kind of gets pushed to like 3 years down the track, because there's 2 elements that they have to overcome. The first one is it's a new technology, and the second one is change from their current systems, right? Like no one wants to, first of all, introduce, etc. So what the impetus behind what we're doing is to say, that's fine, I can convince 50 people in the real world, 50 businesses to try out blockchain technology the way we think it should be tried, or we can create our own virtual world and mimic all interaction of the real world in a virtual environment, such that when I go back to the real world people, I can point at this billion-dollar ecosystem, mature and resilient, and I can say the technology works. And for me, I can change APIs from my land title in my virtual world to your land title in the real world. But here's the thing, right? If we do that, now you have an ecosystem that with its own internal economy that works. The problem is, when you extract it out, or the base technology to say real world use cases, they still need to use the same currency, which is our native currency that powers the application of the virtual world back in the real world, right? That's the impetus to us to have built Loot NFT. That's why we did it. It was not about capital raising, etc. We want to show. That's why we say no capital raises, no team token allocation, none of these things. We want to show what blockchain technology should and can be used for practically, so that people can understand it
get involved in it and not be as scared of implementing it in their daily life. So I think from that, you know, the 10,000 foot view and the impetus for why we did this, I think you start to get a little bit of a different feel.
Right. I totally agree. I think what is really going to get cryptocurrency and blockchain technology to the masses is to where we get to a point where people don't even realize that they're using it. And I think like NFTs and the metaverse is what's going to make that a possibility.
Absolutely.
You know, people are going to be using the metaverse. They're going to be on the metaverse. They're going to be playing platforms. They're going to be using blockchain technology and not even know it. And I think because right now, a lot of people don't, you know, the average person does not want to learn about cryptocurrency. It's too complicated for them to understand. So they'll just, nah, I don't get away from me. I don't care about it because I don't want to take the time to learn it. But once you get to the point where it's so easy to use and people are using it without even realizing they're using it, then that's when mass adoption hits.
I agree, and the other thing is just put it in this term. I couldn't get my mother to use MetaMask to save her life. Like, first of all, she's like, you know, what happens if something goes wrong? Who do I call? And when you say, well, you can call Vitalik, I suppose, but you know, there's no one to call. And, you know, we live in a world where people, like, we're humans, like, yes, the technology allows you to do certain things, but many of us forget that there's an element of time. And when you're building a project, any project, I don't care where you're from, I've advised myself dozens of projects in the space, and I've seen this in practice. You've got three things that you must balance with time. The first one is technology. Where's the state of technology today? Like, yeah, we want to build a decentralized portal to somewhere. Okay, well, yeah, okay. Can the technology do it? And then how ease of use. How easy is that you know, do you have to go through your MetaMask, deal with slippage on the secondary exchange, deal with this, and by the time you're done, you've paid $10,000 worth of ETH in gas fees, and before you even get like, so that second element is ease of use. And then there's a third one, which is basically what used to scare a lot of people in 2017, but doesn't seem to scare people now, and that's regulatory compliance. It's all well and good to do decentralization on a massive scale, but what about the regulatory compliance on the other side? So you have to, as a project or as a business, you have to be able to manage all three of them. And sometimes you say, we're going to go a little less decentralized, but we're going to make it a little more user-friendly, right? To get, or maybe, you know, the other way around, or maybe we do the regulations first. But in any case, whatever you're doing, you're balancing these three. And that three, the last element that people don't generally associate with is time. Those three things change in time. Regulations may change, the nature of the technology may change. So when you're building a project, are you building it for now, or are you building it for 3 years from now? How do you manage this? And you know, the way that I think about technology is effectively that way, and building a business in the space. Right. So hopefully that helps, you know, provide some insights.
Sure. Well, I've been reading a little bit and looking over the white paper on the loot NFTs, and it looks like you guys have a very interesting gamified auction system. Can you tell me a little bit about how did you get this format, and how is this helping creators and NFT fans?
Okay, yeah, no, that's, I think one of the biggest parts, we've got a patent pending application on this. One of the biggest parts, one of the reasons I really got involved and wanted to put my name behind this was we needed to solve a problem. And the problem was saturation, and the problem was democratization of the NFT space. Let me give you a very simple way of actually thinking about this. If I were to ask you, would you be able to buy the $69 million Beeple today or tomorrow, or anyone? Most people would probably say no, because, and I'd be like, why? Because I don't have the damn $69 million to start with, right? Like, that's the, you know, that's the aspect. But the way, so what that does is it excludes the rest of the world from participating in valuable NFTs. Right? Like, think about it this way. Who can buy a $2 million or $3 million Elon Musk screenshot
from, let's just say, you know, the provinces of Africa, who, like, even here, right? So what it does is it does this exclusionary decentralization. For me, has always been about unlocking value in hard to find places, period. No intermediaries, you go from A to B, right? And here we have the NFT space, which is basically saying, you don't have $2 million, you can't come into my club, right? So that was the first problem. We wanted to do something that anyone can participate. That's a problem we're solving. The second problem we wanted to solve was when the NFT blew up earlier this year, you had a number of artists out there that started to come in and saturated the space. If you were in early, that's great. You now have a broken brand. If you came in 2 months later, there's a bunch of NFTs. All their value is basically locked up in gas fees that was created to mint it.
Yeah.
And it's just staying there with no bids on them. So that's an issue, which is basically linked to another issue, which is liquidity in NFTs. The same question I will ask is, how much does the $69 million Beeple that you bought today, how much could you sell it for tomorrow? And your answer would be, well, how long is a piece of string, right? Like it could be $10, it could be $1 million. I have no idea, right? Because the liquidity doesn't drive it. So when we did this, I know I think I need to set the stage for this, because otherwise you will be lost in what we're doing with the platform. So our goal was to solve these 3 problems in a very simple manner. So what we did is, when you look at the valuation of NFTs today, the first, if it was an equation, you would say value equal brand, who the artist is, plus the intrinsic value of what you're trying to create, whether it's a painting or a car or something. But it's always that, right?
Right.
So for us, what we did, we broke that equation. And we had a thesis that said, if we could make value equals brand plus intrinsic value plus collectibles plus something else plus something else, something else, something else, we would be able to achieve value, because the NFT that itself would just be a derivative of the game on top of it. That makes sense, right?
Right.
So what we did was we created this auction format where people were only able to bid 1 token at a time, like a fixed value token. It's called a bid unit or a bun, 1 token at a time. That's it. There's a timer on the auction. The timer goes down to 0. The last to bid, when the timer expires, gets the NFT. But with 1 twist. If a bid is received in the last 15 seconds, it resets the timer back 15 seconds. So as people are bidding, what's happening is people are just taking position, and everyone starts to bid in that last 15 seconds. So you can imagine that an auction now can last days, because if that timer keeps resetting in the last 15 seconds, it just basically lasts days. And the next question you'll ask is, okay, why would I be bidding every 15 seconds? You spend each token while bidding, right? So you never get it back. So as you put, say, 1 cent, a token of 1 cent in, it rises the value of the auction 1 cent. Okay. Somebody else comes after you, it's 2 cents. Somebody else 3 cents, and it keeps going. Today, I think this model, basically, the longest auction I think lasted 9 days and was about thousands of dollars, right? Like a lot. And this is basically probably one of the longest running auctions in the world. Maybe we're going to call Guinness Book of Records, with 2-second biddings at all times. Here's a reason why people bid. Each bid in that auction mines a token, our native token. So our native token only gets issued to bidders at these auctions that they can now use within our whole entire ecosystem. And when it's used in our entire ecosystem, it gets burned, right? So then you need more bidding to happen in these auctions. Okay. Here are the results, practical results. We started with a small country with unknown artists that used to sell their paintings or whatever for about $200, $300. and no one knows about them, etc. So we took a number of artists there, and they started getting 10x to 20x because people didn't really know them, but they wanted to mine the currency, right? Like, so they're going in, and all the proceeds, 100% of the proceeds go to their creations teams, right? 100%. So whatever is listed on that thing, they and their team or their curators or whoever manages them, etc., they get that. So what we were able to do, and the messages we were able to find from these guys were, you have done more for art in this country than the government has ever done in 10 years, in 1 month. You have allowed me to live really, like, you know, 1 year of my income, 1 year of my work has been basically, you know, you've given me that. And stories after stories after stories, it is basically very much the same. So when you think about it in Bitcoin, Bitcoin is the biggest game on the planet. Bitcoin is a game of find the number first. You find the number, you get to publish a block, you get the reward.
Yep.
Our auctions is basically Bitcoin, but instead of proof of work, it's proof of play. The more you bid, the more issuance of the tokens you get. But instead of paying electricity company for my mining operation, you're paying artists around the world to break out. So what we've done is created American Idols for NFTs as part of this mining protocol.
Wow, that is awesome. So you got the bid token or the bid unit, which is the bun, and then you also have the token LTTs.
Correct. That's what comes out of the, you bid the bun in to receive the LTT. So you have a mining ratio. So if you bid, say, 20 times in a row, you get 1 LTT issued to your account, which is our native currency.
Gotcha. That now it makes sense. Okay, that makes sense.
And the LTT is used within to consume, to buy plots, to buy items, to the economy. And whenever you buy a plot, it gets burned off the ecosystem. And now you need to mine more, which pays more artists as well in this sustainable, automated economic ecosystem.
So the metaverse.
Yes, that's exactly right. The metaverse is powered by the LTT. That's the unit of account. And our metaverse works a little differently. I don't know if you're going there, but if you want, you know, I can sort of spend it, you know, a few minutes on that, if that's okay.
Sure, let's hear it.
Okay, so when you look at Loot NFT or Lootverse, you've got the mining operation, which is the bidding and the thing. It's not for everyone. We know this. Like, it's like Bitcoin mining is not for everyone. That's okay, right? But there's people that just going at it, you know, to issue those tokens. If you don't want to mine, which is obviously the cheapest way to get LTs, you can buy it from a miner. Like, same thing as in Bitcoin, right? Like, you can either mine or you can buy it from somebody, depending on what you want to do. So once you issue those tokens, those LTTs, and now what you have is you can use it in the metaverse. But our metaverse is not like, you know, Decentraland, etc. To me, if you've seen the Icelandverse YouTube clip, which basically is a parody of Mark Zuckerberg's Meta, like the guy opens the window and says, "Hey, here's my metaverse, but it's real world." Right? Right? It's basically our approach to this, right? We don't want you to wear goggles, you know, AI, like, you know, AR, VR, and control an avatar within a game, right? Like, the way we approach this is our initial thing is to say, you are the program. And if we can program you to believe that an alternate world is real, then we've achieved our thing. So we've achieved our goal, because what you're doing is almost role playing in the real world, but we've so everything from this parallel world is real. You should see our land title. It looks like the goal for the land title was, if we had, if you had left it on a table somewhere, your wife comes around or your girlfriend is like, why did you buy land? Because it looks exactly the same. Every title detail in the metaverse is real. And here's what, and when we do, for example, you know, our store, much like Amazon.com
looks different to Chase Bank, looks different to something else. All the branding of store within this ecosystem is different. So where you go in our shopping district, it's called Satoshi's Lounge, which looks completely different. All LTT gets spent there, etc. You go to the world and it looks like Google, right? Like all the maps or like it's different. You go to our fund where you manage a real estate, fantasy real estate fund. It could be used in the real world. It collects all your NFTs, which are, the plots are NFTs. You collect all of them, you manage them as you would in the real world. So your brain starts getting tricked now and saying, hey, is this, if you landed on this, you'd be like, is this really like what's going on here, right? So our plots gives you the ability to do a number of things. It gives you a license to open a gate, like a theme park in the real world, where you could basically cross into, say, hey, you're leaving Earth and you're going into this Disneyland for crypto, right? You're about to leave Earth into that. That's the first thing. The other things is it gives you benefits from all ecosystem revenues, right? Like, so you get rentals, royalties. It allows people to rent your plots in exactly the same way as it happens in the real world. And if we can achieve that, now we can do things that are absolutely amazing. Set up fantasy funds, fantasy banks, fantasy insurance licenses, just in case there's catastrophic events randomly generated on the plot. You need to be protected, which allows businesses to bridge from the real world into the metaverse and from the metaverse into the real world. I hope that kind of makes sense. But yeah.
Yeah, that does. Absolutely. We got about 7 minutes
Awesome.
left. I'm going to wrap. We're going to have one more question here for you. So what is your vision for the future of Loot NFT? Tell me about that.
That's awesome. Decentralization, period. One word. And the explanation is this. Decentralization to me has been a driver in my career in blockchain technology. I know we can't get there 100%. There's many steps in between that you have to get over. Those three things that I said we must balance them right in time. But ultimately, our world, for example, has a parliament, which has an upper house, lower house. They decide on all ecosystem dynamics and parameters, much like a decentralized member governance system. So we want to be able to decentralize, several components of those modules as it happens. The end goal for us is, and I don't think I mentioned this, but we've built our own permission blockchain on which all the transaction runs to allow us to bridge to other chains, like whether it's Ethereum, Binance, you choose, but we keep a ledger of all of your interactions within the world, and then you can bridge out, right? So the goal is to decentralize all interactions into a decentralized autonomous organization as much as feasible with current state technologies.
Wow. Blown away. Well, there you have it, folks. We got James Duchenne here, the founder of Loot NFT. And yeah, guys, be sure to join their community. You guys be able to find the links down in the description box. Now, of course, just fair warning, a little disclaimer here. We do, this is paid content. So please always make sure to do your own research. Be safe out there. Don't FOMO into any projects. Do your research. That's not financial advice. And also be sure to give us a thumbs up if you're enjoying this video. And if you have not done so already, please hit that subscribe button and turn on the notifications so that way you get notified every time that I go live and when I post new videos. Well, thank you very much, James. Thanks for joining us here today. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we get off here?
No, thank you. I'd like to say thanks to anyone watching, and if we can provide some, more clarity, etc. We've got, the documentations that we have, it goes everywhere. You've got 5 different types of white paper. We've got patent pending application. Everything that we do is transparent. We want to hear, this is the way we think it should be, but maybe we're wrong as well, right? So we'd like to hear from different experiences to make what we're trying to do better. And absolutely right. I always say this to people, what you just said. At the end of the day, for us, it's about providing value.
Don't FOMO into anything. Just come in, take your time. You know, we're here to tell you about the information. We're not here to sell you, you know, a particular type of product. For me, it's about getting the industry and what we're doing in blockchain technology to move one step forward into the future. So I appreciate your time. I appreciate you, Nero, and you know, looking forward to maybe catching up again.
Absolutely, absolutely. I can't wait to get in on this metaverse. I'll be definitely giving this a shout out and play. So thank you. Well, guys,
Awesome.
Thank you guys all for joining here today. Also, you know, be sure to subscribe if you have not done so already. It's Nero here at Dappcentre saying so long and enjoy the rest of your day. Adios.